And I'm super stoked that we get a chance to do this. It's also the first time that I've ever gone back to back being on somebody's podcast and then the next day getting to record.
That's pretty fun.
I'm pretty stoked on it. Yesterday was cool because I honestly I'm in this weird spot right now where some people recognize me for what I've done in the business world and some people recognize me for the podcast thing. And so when I come into a conversation, there's times where I don't know which place I can add value in.
Right.
And so it's been a while since I've had to wear like the business hat and do a podcast that way. And it was actually a ton of fun.
It's kind of fun to dig in the weeds.
Yeah.
And find out what makes people, what things are working and whatnot.
100%.
So,
what things have you learned about people and kind of yourself since starting that podcast?
A lot of people just want, what's funny is like, you see even like your competitors or like your vendors or anybody, like what drives them, like what motivates them, and we all kind of have the same values. Successful people all, it's about taking care of their family. It's about taking care of, the people around them. Really successful people are really selfless. Like it's really not most of them anyway. Right. Yeah. It's not about them. So that to me, that's the fun part.
Interesting. Is that something that you were surprised to learn the more that you talk to 100%. People?
100%. Yeah.
What do you think that is? Why do you think that that's a perception that exists that successful people are cold or,
I think they just think that we're like selfish and, it's only about business and we don't have that balance, which none of us have,
right?
That we strive for. And I think that the people that do it are doing it for the right reasons. Like they're doing it, for their kiddos or their, right. Like for me, it's, Cozy, my nephew that works for us, all our staff and all our vendors. So, obviously there's monetarily gains, but, the most of them are real selfless.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I think that that's one of the interesting things. We kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday that like, I think that the most successful people and the people that you want to be around the most are the ones that like people are the focus instead of whatever the other stuff is. Yeah. And it seems like that attitude and that like maybe disposition is one of the things that can get you the furthest, because if people genuinely like when you call them and like they're going to answer the phone or genuinely like doing business with you, it's such a freaking win, because every time that there's a deal that comes up or every time there's a project, it's like, well, love working with Levi. That last one went super smooth and I would invite him to the barbecue kind of thing.
And then my business really took off when it wasn't about selling the house. It was about helping the client. At first, you're just trying to pay your bills and, get by.
Yeah.
But then when we kind of had this dynamic shift of, I'm like, we're just going to be the best customer service, and we're going to take care of our people because this is where their family is going to grow up. This is where, those things are going to happen. Then that shift really accelerated my business, because then the word of mouth gets out, then everything kind of just takes off.
100%. So for the people who don't know where you've gotten in the development world in Montana, walk me back through your story a little bit, like how we got to the point where now you're doing some of the most volume in Montana.
Absolutely. So, I've been selling real estate for 25 years in Billings. I got my real estate license. This kind of dates me because I'm just turned 50. And,
easy math right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I sold houses for another builder. Great guy, learned a ton from him, learned the process. I don't have a construction background. I never swung a hammer very much, that kind of stuff. I learned the process. I took, knew that I could get the clients. If you can, get the clients to sell the house, I can figure out how to build it.
Okay.
So I started the building company, Inifinity Homes, 15 years ago, and started out with one spec house. The next year was 6. 12. Now we're up over 60 houses a year, and we're in 4 different markets in Montana.
Holy cow.
So my sister's works with me now. We have kind of a family organization. My nephew works in the office. My other nephew's wife works in the office. So we're kind of a family business, and we're just running around all around the state trying to sell houses right now.
So cool, man. I remember when we talked a little over a year ago last time, you had just expanded into Helena.
Yeah.
And there was all of the stuff that came with that. What's it like now being in a place where you guys have expanded to is it 3 more markets since then?
Yeah. We're in Bozeman, Helena, and Great Falls, as well as Billings now.
That's so cool.
It's interesting because every community is different.
Mm-hmm.
People think it's Montana. We're all just kind of rural, but Billings is as bad as metro as it gets in Montana. And Bozeman's now become, California, with all the Californians moving in there.
Yeah.
So, and Helena is kind of got that rural vibe to it. Yep. We joke that you go to Helena and even the realtors are wearing flannel and, all the dudes have beards, but you go to Bozeman and it's like, you're on the set of Selling Sunset.
For sure.
They're all dressed in high heels and it's insane.
Yep.
So, every community is different. And that's what we try to do is we try to ingrain ourselves in the community, hire all local subs, local vendors. We try to keep it that local vibe because we are still in Montana and that means something.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing that I've considered about going to different markets and that kind of stuff. And it's whether you play the game where you go into that market and you try to like fit in with whatever the vibe is there, right? So like, do you dress in flannels and work boots and stuff like that when you're in Helena, but put on a button up and some linen pants when you're in Bozeman?
Yeah.
How do you guys approach going into different markets? Do you double down on being yourselves? Do you kind of try to fit in there? Like, what's the approach when you go to those different spots?
I'm 1,000,000% always myself. When I first started in real estate, one of my biggest mentors, he's a suit guy, always looks great. And I tried that and it just wasn't me. Mm-hmm. I show up to Helena, Bozeman, wherever I'm going in the summertime, I'm in shorts and in my Birkenstocks and, my favorite weather is, hoodie and shorts weather. Yeah. I mean, that's by far the best, but I always joke cause I'll show up in my golf shirt, my shorts and my Birkenstocks and people are like, oh, you look like you're ready to go golf. I'm like, I stay ready to go play golf. And, I think you can ingrain yourself in the community and be yourself 100%. People want to be your friend. And it doesn't matter if you look like them or, you dress like them. I don't even own a flannel. I look like a farmer. I look like my dad. Fair enough. So I just try to be authentic. The way I talk, the way I do everything is 100% me. And to me, if you're comfortable in your own skin and you can go out and just be a kind person and do what you say you're going to do and, over deliver, then you're always going to be in good shape.
100%. I think that's one of the things too, that like is the most important when you're starting to make new friends, build a new network or something like that. Like, I think that people can sniff it out when you're trying to like put on a persona or put on a performance or something like that. And it kind of puts people's warning flags up. Like, why aren't you willing to be yourself right now?
Yep.
And it was interesting to me. So I've got a friend named Brady McLean that's based out of Sheridan. He's got a company called Go Fast, Don't Die. I was wearing their hat on your podcast yesterday. And I really like their company because he says that they're like a philosophy company that's disguised as a motorcycle brand.
I love that.
And what I love about that is they take motorcycles and t-shirts and all this different stuff and like kind of like create this lifestyle around this idea that you're supposed to like build your best story. The thing that's cool about that brand is just a manifestation of who Brady is as a person. He's a traveler, a photographer, a writer. Like, he does all of these super creative things. But what's funny to me is one of the people on his team was explaining to me that when he walks into a business meeting, his whole team prefaces everybody who's there. And they go, okay, listen, guys, Brady's going to be here in about 5 minutes and he might show up late. He's probably going to be wearing short shorts, God knows what kind of shoes, maybe a cutoff. He's got a man bun that's also a mohawk. Like, it's going to be wild. And he's probably not going to sit down the whole time. And he's going to be pacing around and like fucking with stuff in the room. But when he's doing those things, that's the very best that we can get out of him because that's how he focuses. That's how he's locked in. And that's how we're going to do this. But what I absolutely love about that is everybody around Brady knows that that's the best that they're going to get out of him is when they can just let him be him. And so he hasn't put anybody in a position where he has to put on a performance and give them less of a good result because of him doing that.
Absolutely. And when I first started the building company, it was I was insecure about the fact that because most builders in our area started off as framers or trim guys.
Okay.
And so it was kind of a stigma that I had never done that. So instead of like trying to pretend like I was somebody that I wasn't and being inauthentic, I just kind of leaned into it.
Gotcha.
And I'm real upfront with our clients. Like, hey, I don't know everything, but I know the right people that know everything. I hire the best people and we're going to take care of you regardless. We're going to give you that customer service that you deserve.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I noticed a ton when I was like really early in business is I felt like I was always looking for like the right like token to put on the table to be like, okay, I can sit at this table with you. And a lot of times I even like, I would change 3 times in a day, depending on what meetings I was going
100%.
to,
Yeah.
you know? And so I was like, I'd go into a conversation and be like, okay, well, this guy seems like he's really professional and blah, blah, blah. So like, I'm going to look in my pocket and I'm going to like grab the business coin and I'm going to put that on the table. And hopefully that gets me into this conversation. And then I'd go hang out with like some of my creative friends, or I'd go to hire a photographer. Be like, okay, well now I need to like grab my creative coin and like put that one on the table so that they think I'm cool and a good boss to work for. And the one thing that I really respect about people like Brady is they walk around with one coin in their pocket, and every single time they're like,
this is me.
This is what you got.
Yep.
And I absolutely love that, because taking that pressure off is massive. And like today I walked into a meeting with a company that we're probably going to do like a lot of really long-term projects for. It's probably high budget stuff or whatever. I was wearing baggy jeans, a t-shirt, and a backwards hat. I took my hat off because my mom would kill me if I took a business meeting with a hat on. But like, that's the kind of stuff where like, I'm not going to change and be uncomfortable in my own skin and like do that kind of thing just to like look the part, when the value that I add to this conversation is the fact that we're really good at all the things they're trying to hire us for.
Yes.
You know, so I'm curious, in the beginning of your career, did you have to go through that thing where like you found like your voice and your persona, or is that something that you just bought into right away?
It took me a minute. Like I told you, I tried the suit thing, and then I tried the, you know, wear the jeans every day to the job site, because that's, you know, kind of how the subs. And like growing up, I never wore jeans. It was like khakis or shorts, or, you know, like that's just not, I want to be comfortable. I'll wear shorts year round if I can. Okay. And I joke, you don't have calves like these to not show them off. And so it did take me a minute, but I learned it pretty quick. And just because I didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to feel comfortable in my own skin and be who I was and make it on my own merits, not on this fake persona that I had made.
100%.
And then you find out, the more successful you become, then it becomes your friend. They're kind of quirky, but it works for them.
Yeah.
And then it, you know, I roll into banks dressed the same way. Like I don't care anymore. Like, and then the more successful you get, the more doors it opens, and it kind of takes that stigma away.
100%. I saw this tweet when I was a freshman in college, and I don't know why it stuck with me so much, but the student named Arya put a tweet out, and it said, people in suits look really cool until you realize that they're working for the guy wearing sweats.
Right. 100%.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that there's obviously limitations to that quote, but I just loved that idea that like, if you're somebody who's been so successful in your own right that it doesn't matter what outfit you're wearing into a room, that's a pretty good marker that like you've done a good job.
Yeah. The Mark Cuban effect.
Exactly.
You just wear whatever the hell you want.
Exactly. So going back to some of those like early days where you were like selling real estate, you were doing some of that stuff. You and I have talked a handful of times over the last couple of years about how cool I think your story is, that you've gotten where you've gotten in the development world, but also the metrics that you can't measure. There's no statistics on how good of a dad you were, or on how good of a husband you were, and like how well you took care of yourself. For the people that know you, I think that those measures are also as impressive as the development stuff that you've done. So I'm curious, like, walk me through the very beginning when you're like super green in the face, you're just starting in like the real estate world. What does that look like? Just to like give people some context.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you first start in real estate, you have to get your face in front of as many people as possible. So you're not home a ton. Mm-hmm. And I already had kids before I started. So
how many kids did you have?
I have 2.
Okay.
Yep. And so, my oldest was just, you know, probably a year or 2 old. So, it was kind of there was no escape clause. It was like, this had to work.
Why'd you pick real estate? Which is, being a new father, that's a fairly risky industry.
I've just always loved everything real estate. And then the first job I ever got was a maintenance man at my wife and I lived in Las Vegas because she was a teacher and they weren't hiring teachers at that point. So I got a job as a maintenance man at a big apartment complex. So I just kind of rolled from property management. Then I became the property manager. When I moved back, I got promoted, moved up. And then I read The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. Whatever your politics are or whatever, the guy's a brilliant businessman.
Yep.
I love the real estate deal because if I sell Drew a house or I sell, you know, Tom a house, every deal is different. And it's putting that puzzle together to me is is the most fascinating, fun thing that I do every single day.
Okay.
Just like right before I came here, I'm out looking at lots for people, with them. And, each lot is a canvas that then we get to paint a portrait on.
Right.
And then we get to design the house to fit them, and it's their perfect home. So that puzzle that you get to, then there's the financing piece and, all of these things and selling their house, and we get to put it all together.
Right.
And to me, there's nothing better for me.
Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of how I got into that. The kid part, my dad was a truck driver. And I was an athlete growing up. So he didn't make it to a lot of my events. And so I always said that I was going to do that.
Is that something that, like, as you're 25, just starting with things and you got a little one, is that a commitment that you make at that point? Or is this something that, like, you kind of grew into?
100%. That's a commitment that I made. I coached baseball, wrestling, football. I coached every single sport for both my kids, just carved out the time. And because I'd rather be working at 11 o'clock at night and get to spend from 3 to 6 coaching and spending that time and making it worthwhile. And, cause we all, I say it all the time. We all have the same amount of hours in the day. It's just depending on how you do those hours. So, I think I did that. Obviously I'm not perfect. We all make mistakes in parenting, especially cause it's the hardest thing that you'll ever do. I did what I did really well. We've talked about it on your podcast before. I didn't graduate high school. So like schoolwork wasn't the thing that I was helping with. That's why I had kids with the teacher. So, those are things and it was important to me to be there. And it turned out the best part about it is I end up selling a lot of the houses to the parents that are on the team. So it kind of created this networking effect, and I get to spend time with my kids as well.
That's so cool. That's one of the things that's been on my mind lately is, being a business owner. We're 4 years in right now. And this podcast is probably a year and a half at this point. But it's one of the things that I've started thinking about is, like, I'm 27 now and would like to, like, start having a family soon and do that kind of thing. And it's one of the things that's been on my mind is, like, I am now going to have to care for more people than just myself. And so my risk tolerance feels like maybe it'll be a little bit different when I've got 3 people who I'm putting on the line instead of myself.
Absolutely.
Because I'm happy to go couch surf and go to zero and do all that kind of stuff, but I'm not really willing to put somebody else through that. And so selfishly, I'm curious for you when you're 25 and starting in, like, kind of like a commission-based industry and that kind of thing. How do you navigate that pressure to be like, it's not just me anymore?
So I worked multiple jobs. So I threw boxes up at UPS in the morning. I painted with a painter at night and on weekends, just to make sure that I had money coming in.
Okay.
So as I'm growing my business, as most entrepreneurs do, they have to supplement some, when you're first starting. So, and I was lucky right out the gate that I just started selling houses right away.
Okay. So you kind of like,
I picked it up real quick.
Right away. Okay.
I picked it up really quick. But the only problem with that is then that was like 2005. And then,
easy to sell houses right around then.
You think you're a rock star, and then, the 08 market crashes. So then you go right back to scraping and doing odd jobs and whatever you have to do to take care of your family. And it's funny. And I think most dads have this, is once you have that responsibility, that life that depends on you, you'll do just about anything to take care of that soul. So for me, it's, we didn't grow up with a lot of money and stuff like that. So for me, it was just like, we're going to provide no matter the time, whatever it costs. And I think that's just a mindset that most dads have or should have.
Is that something that, I've heard that from some of my buddies, that it's almost like something almost like physically switches in you when you first have your kid. Did you experience
like
that?
my everything in my body just changed a little bit. Like my physiology, like you kind of puff up, like there's something in a dad and a mom, obviously, that's your responsibility. That person is your responsibility. So, I think you just have to have that. I think most parents do.
Yeah. Walk me through being a dad of a couple of 4 and 5 year olds around
boys,
that time and having the 08 crash. What is that like?
You're taking it day by day. You're just scraping to make. The good thing about Montana is, California, Arizona, the big markets crashed. Billings always kind of stays. steady. We never hit the highs. We never hit the lows. So I was still selling houses, not as many, obviously. Right. So you downsize your life, you're not couch surfing, but you're downsizing your life. Yeah. You're not going out to eat as much. You're not, doing those things. You're just doing what, because and I'd read enough books because I'm a reader.
Yeah.
It's a cycle and it's going to come back. You just have to bide your time until it comes back. Right. So it's just a survival mindset.
What's up, everybody? We're taking a quick pause from the show to ask one small favor. When we were looking at the stats of the show, we noticed that most of the people that listen consistently actually aren't subscribed to the show yet. So the one ask that we have today is if you could take 10 seconds and whatever platform you're listening on right now, head over to our page and hit the subscribe button, and it would be a huge help for us. Growing our subscribers helps us bring on more awesome guests, and it really helps us build a community of people like you that we're trying to foster with this thing. So that's the one ask that we have. Please go hit that subscribe button, and let's get back to the show. How important is it to choose a partner that can ride with you through some of those waves?
It's important. It's probably the most important thing. Both I've been divorced and remarried, and both were fantastic at just trusting me that I would always take care of our family. There was never any like, oh, you're a loser because you're not bringing in enough money. It's just, we're going to get through this and we're going to get through it together. We're going to, right foot, left foot is what I always like to say. Like we're going to get there, and whether or not it's next week or next month, but we're going to get through this.
Interesting.
But the partner that you choose, I think, is probably the most important partnership you'll ever get.
Is that something that you leaned on during those times?
No, I'm a very introverted, like when the stress comes, that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's my stress to take. It's not my partner's stress to take.
Right.
Whether we're just getting by in 2008, or I just built this stupid big house that my wife and I just built. I got to sell the other stupid big house that we sold, right? Like that's my stress to take. And I always tell people, as your business grows, like even for you, like as your business grows, the stress is never going to go away. You just have to get that stress load, learn how to manage it. And I always say, like, the stress is the same. The numbers just get bigger on the bills. The stress has just become just another zero, and you just have to do the same thing that got you to the spot that you're going to.
That totally makes sense.
Yep.
It's I think that's both a very like rewarding thing to hear and also a scary thing to hear.
100%.
Because it's like, well, if I'm doing fine right now, that means that like when my problems are 10x as big, I'll still be doing fine then. But it also means that all of these ideas of reaching the mountaintop and finally having no stress never really exists.
It never exists. And even like as we're growing, like you can put a dollar sign on every market, how much it costs to expand. It takes a certain amount for that growth to happen. So you have to be ready to take that on. And all the growth that we've been having, your business doesn't look real profitable because you're expanding.
Right.
And that you just have to get used to that. And then you have to, then you stay in one spot, and then you let it build up again, and then you keep growing.
Yeah.
The same thing with your podcast will happen. The same thing will happen with your media business.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, when you say that that's your burden to bear, like your stress to carry, I feel similarly with that. I am very aware of the fact that not many people are wired like we are. And it's an unfamiliar thing, I think, for a lot of people to have the kind of volatility that we have in our lives. And short of being with another entrepreneur, it's like they purposely did not set up their life that way. So I think that it's unfair to drag them into all the stress that they just weren't built for. I'm curious for you though, how in those times where the 2008 market crashes or you're super over leveraged on an expansion or a deal or something like that, where do you go to kind of like manage some of that stress? And if you're not going to your partner for that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when I was young and not very smart, I would go sit at the bar with my buddies and drink, and that's how I'd blow off steam.
Not uncommon either.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem with that is you wake up the next day with the same problems, but you have a hangover. So you're not sharp. You're not at your best. So now I try to do it a little more, constructive. Yeah.
Yeah.
The gym, the really hard workouts that will make most of those things. When you're gasping for air, you don't care about your bills. Like,
Very true.
yeah. And then, both my boys like to golf now. So we go play golf together. That's our way of spending time. And those kind of things, just a creative outlet. Or when the stress just gets really hard, all you can do is do the work. If, money's tight, I got to go to work and sell a house. So instead of being self-destructive, which I was, I try to turn it into a constructive process.
Do you think that action is one of the better ways to alleviate that anxiety?
100%. Whether it's physical or it's your work or, if you're super stressed, go for a walk. You'll feel way better in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Than you will if you go do something destructive.
I don't know if it's Hermose's original idea, or if it's something that he kind of like cites often, but one of the things that was really helpful for me to hear in my first couple of years where like everything felt like a 10 on the stress level was that anxiety is having a whole gang of options, but not knowing which one to pick. And sadness is having no options and like not being able to choose anything. And so the reason that I liked that visual is because I was like, okay, if I'm feeling stressed out right now and I can just put almost like a diagram or a picture on it and say, the reason that I'm feeling this worked up about this thing is because I've got all these options on the table and I don't know which one to pick. It's better to just pick one, have that like channel to go like take action on. And then by nature of the fact that anxiety exists as just too many options, now I've got one option and I've got a thing to take action on.
We're lucky as entrepreneurs that we can drum up the options.
True.
You do become a victim of opportunities. So then and we create that stress on ourselves. So then we're like, oh, that's a great revenue idea. Or, I can make money this way. And then you take your main focus away, and that's then it kind of the stress builds.
Right.
And what's nice about our circumstance is it's not like we're, serving fries at McDonald's. We're making $12 an hour. And the only option is to go work 80 hours where I can go do a 2-hour open house and pick up, build a new house to build. And, we're creating big revenue. So I think kind of keeping that tunnel focus and not letting those opportunities take control of you is tough when you first started to get successful.
For sure. That's an interesting thing too, because I think the perception about entrepreneurship and about building your own thing in general is that having all of the options and your ability to be autonomous is like exciting and it's the best part of it. I think it's a different thing once you have all of the options in the world and now you've got the new stress of like, good luck, man, pick one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
especially if
100%.
you're somebody who's like constantly coming up with new stuff.
And pick the right one. So that's because it's funny because a little bit of success will open some doors. And then when you start kind of really showing the world what you can do, then all the opportunities come to you. Everyone's pitching you something all the time. So you the best thing I've ever done is just stay focused on the one goal. And I don't split off too often. Anytime I do something, it's vertical in the business that I'm in. Like I'm not going to go start a, vacuum cleaner company or something. It always has something to do with real estate.
Yeah. So when you're transitioning out of the like real estate sales world and you're going into starting to develop and like build your own houses, what does that transition look like?
So I was still selling houses.
Right.
And I was only building one house at that time. So I'd go to that house every day, manage the subs.
Why'd you decide to build it in the first place?
Because I knew I could. I knew the process. I knew I could get the buyer. And there's just more upside. I wanted to control my own inventory.
Okay.
The problem with being a realtor is you're always selling somebody else's inventory. So I wanted to kind of control the process that, have the product, sell the house, sell that customer's house, and be able to take care of the client in a whole 360 area.
Got it. So they've got one call to make and they're handled.
Yep. And so it works out really great. And just controlling your own destiny is kind of the way I'd put it, because you're building the house. I know the market. I know the plans that sell.
Yep.
And why not?
Dang. Was it nerve-wracking at all to do that first one?
No, I don't have the stress. You know how some people kind of overthink
Yep.
investments or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just a kind of go person. I don't overthink it. I get the numbers. Obviously, I'm a numbers guy. You get the numbers, you calculate the risk, and then for me, speed is king.
Okay.
So especially in the home building, because it takes 4 to 6 months to build a house. So I've got to be thinking around the corner. What's the market doing? What are other people producing? What's my competition doing?
Yeah.
And then trying to do something different and marketable.
Huh. Talk to me a little bit about the like analysis paralysis versus the like firing off of the hip and then just kind of figuring out as you go. Talk to me about like what you see as being the benefits of each of those.
I struggle with the analysis by paralysis people because I'm just not that person. Because I think you can just overthink things to death.
Yeah.
And you'll gain way more by taking the risk and learning the lesson, because they're not all wins. There's some losses, and you learn from those losses and you get better. And I never think of one spec house as a home run. I think of it as, we're just trying to hit singles, and everything with me is a sports analogy.
Totally fair. Easily relatable.
Yeah. I'm just a boy dad, so everything is a single. And then sometimes you hit the double, sometimes you do hit, the triple or the home run, but you learn the lessons from all of them. I never wanted to build one house and thought I was going to get rich. So, the first one, I didn't make a ton of money, but I made enough to keep the ball rolling, keep that snowball moving.
Okay.
So I think you have to have a little bit of analysis and then go, rather than analyze it to death. And then the market passes you by.
Yeah. 100%. That's one of the things that I struggle with a bit. And it's less of, like wanting to know all of the answers and more about like a perfectionism thing. And it's interesting because obviously most people who start and own businesses tend to be more of like the speed oriented thing. And I've definitely got some of that, but I think where I try to battle that like analysis paralysis is I struggle with the idea of having a team that I'm responsible for and then doing something that's going to like negatively affect them or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I've been trying to do again is to like ask myself, how many variables do I actually need to make this decision? And which of the ones are just like me ruminating and kind of going through like the mental masturbation of let's try all of the different scenarios and think our way down 40 different paths here. And
then I think it's important to remember the variables that you can control.
Right.
I can't control what the market does. I can't control the interest rate. I can't control there being a war in Iran and the interest rate popping up.
Right.
You can only control what you can control. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that you should focus on.
For sure. So when you start making like you do your first spec house, you're kind of in like year 1, year 2, and the ball kind of starts rolling and you're getting that snowball effect. What's your headspace like at that point?
I literally disappeared for like 6 or 8 years. I barely talked to any of my buddies. Okay. I didn't go to a lot of social events. I kept my head down and I just pushed. I worked. It was my family and work. That's all I did. And for me, that just kept me in that tunnel where nothing affected me. Nothing like that was relevant at that point. And I think to hit a certain level, you have to do that. You can't, I know we're going to talk about balance a little bit here, but at that point, the balance for me was work and family. And I didn't really know how that I was starting to get successful until I kind of popped up for air.
Interesting.
And, but that was good because that's when my kids are like 6 and 10 and we're doing the things together. And that was probably the time I should have, put my head in the stand.
That's so interesting. I think that's one of the most common decisions that I think that entrepreneurs or anybody that's chasing something has to make for themselves is, do you sacrifice your time now and go like all in on this thing and put your head down and work? Or do you try to have, quote unquote balance, live it up a little bit, kind of do your thing, kind of don't do it, but have like the life experience that you might not get if you're just putting your head down. So I'm curious, do you regret any of the time that you spent in the hole, like just doing your thing over those 6 to 8 years?
I don't, because I was still doing the things I should have done. My kids, and my business.
Yeah.
I didn't go golf with my buddies. I didn't, no slow pitch softball, the things that, 20, 30-year-old guys do.
Yeah.
Those are the things I missed out on. My buddies were always going to be my buddies.
Yeah.
I'd still go to, weddings and things like that, but I didn't socialize a ton outside of business. And for me, that kept me on that straight and narrow path that got me there. So like, if you don't have the family, you can kind of stray a little bit.
Yeah.
But for having the kiddos that needed me to be there for them, that was the right move to do. So I don't regret it, because I'd rather push hard while I'm young.
Yeah.
And then experience life as you get older.
That's so interesting. I haven't heard it put like that before, where it's like you just choose which things that you're willing to sacrifice, and I think that's where that argument gets convoluted sometimes, is when people hear like, you have to put your head down and work for however long, like sacrifice your 20s, live it up in your 30s or whatever. I think a lot of people hear that and go, okay, so I'm not going to be in a relationship. I'm not going to have friends. I'm not going to have a social life. I'm only going to like wake up, sit at the desk, work, and then do the same thing the next day.
Yeah.
Was there parts of spending time with your family and focusing on that during that chapter of grinding that kind of took some of that like pressure off, or that like full-time grind mode, like feel away?
Yeah. I'm really good at making that pivot from when I'm working. If I'm coaching baseball, I'm coaching baseball.
Like on that daily hour to hour.
On that hour to hour pivot. And that's why it's kind of good from going from the building to the sales to, the manager of the people. You kind of have to wear all the hats.
True.
So, but it took me a long time to like get the we're not just sitting there watching TV. We're not, the quality time is the quality time. And that's what sports did really good for us is, when I was coaching wrestling, I was, coaching wrestling. I'm on the mat, rolling around with my kiddos. And, you have to be able to do that as an entrepreneur. You can't just be focused on one thing. I mean, the Alex Hormozis of the world, they're the anomalies.
Yeah.
But he's also has $1 billion company.
Right.
I don't have $1 billion company.
Right.
So, I think everybody, you can find your own way. I don't think one path is the perfect path.
For sure. Is there a way that you can get yourself to do that switch seamlessly? Or like, is that something that was just kind of natural for you?
That's always been natural for me. I've always been able to do that. And I don't know why or how.
Okay.
Because I can go, like, I just came from a sales meeting and then right to here to, podcast Levi.
Yeah.
So
well, it's interesting too, though, because I think that a lot of people, listening to your podcast and like hearing some of the things that you talk about, so much of it is like achievement oriented and drive oriented and that kind of thing. And I think that a lot of those people also struggle when they get done with that part of their day to turn their brain off afterwards.
It's kind of fun to do that. We talked before we started that I'm getting my pilot's license.
Yeah.
So it's for me, I want to achieve in different realms now.
Right.
So it's from 8 to 9:30 every morning, I'm studying airplane stuff and I'm able to kind of satisfy that achievement part of my brain.
Yep.
But not be in a business atmosphere.
Interesting.
Kind of the same thing with, exercise. I told you I'm taking up I've been running and I hate running, but when you're running, all you care about is, getting to the, right foot, left foot.
Right.
So I think you have to find different ways to stimulate that brain, and not everybody is wired like you and I are wired that achievement's important.
Right.
Where my wife likes to garden. So I think she shuts down and unwinds. She's a business owner as well. And I think her thing, she's going out working on the garden or, doing things like that kind of keep your brain stimulated, but you're still doing, moving forward.
Like kind of stepping away from like the main thing that you're doing. Do you think that helps with burnout a bit?
100%. Yep. I do too. I do. And then having big goals that, require money.
Right. Yeah, true. True.
Buying an airplane is not cheap.
Yeah. Right.
Sure. I like to set big goals and They're on my phone. They're on my screensaver. That's kind of my daily. I look at them 4 or 5 times a day.
Okay.
I think having big goals keeps you going. You know, I have a fitness goal. Family goal, that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of just knowing every day that you've got non-negotiables that you need to do.
Yep.
And, have 5 or 6 non-negotiables that you have to do during your business day.
Mm-hmm.
And then go, take a walk in the park, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
People think that they have to have these huge checklists. And I learned this from Andy Frisella.
Yeah.
And they think they have to have this monster to-do list, and, being busy makes them successful.
Yeah.
Where, Andy Frisella says his power list, you tackle the 5 most important things of the day and then do whatever the rest you want for the rest of the day. I think that's super. So people need to understand that you don't have to, being busy does not make you successful. Making it look easy and doing the important things, busy work will just make you busy.
100%. There's one of my favorite ideas is that there's people that wake up every day feeling like they've got like a productivity debt that they have to pay into that day to consider it a success.
Right.
The reason I relate to that so much is because for so long I've been one of those people, and I've always felt the best about myself. It felt like I made progress if, just like you said, I had this long checklist and like everything was checked off, and I would start every day with one of these lists. And if I didn't make significant progress on it, I was like, well, I must be a failure. Today must have been a letdown and blah, blah, blah. And I like really let it kind of determine a lot of my mood and my like self-worth even.
Yeah.
Is that constant battle against like the productivity demon that I'd wake up with every day. And it's one thing that I've tried to get better about is figuring out like what are the key 3 things or one thing that's going to help me move forward for the rest of it.
Yep.
And then let's be flexible on the other things that, if I want to hang out with friends from 3 to 6, sure, maybe I work 8 to 11 that night, but be flexible on the 3 to 6 thing.
Absolutely. Because some things are going to take more time,
Right.
As you grow your accounting and your, the tax stuff, and, that's going to take more time and more taxing on your brain.
Yeah.
But you also have to know what's going to move the needle. For me, it's sales. If I'll drop anything to go make a sale, because if I'm not selling, my business doesn't move forward. So you have to know what the key components that are going to move the needle in your business. You say, no, I can't take a sales call because I've got 19 menial tasks to get done. Isn't gonna move the needle.
100%. How do you how do you let go of the things that are on your to-do list but end up getting bumped off? Is that something that you've always been able to do, or did that take some practice?
It took some practice. I we all struggle with, we all want to, especially when you're first starting, you want to feel important. You want to, have that validation.
Yep.
You got to be a little self-deprecating and know that, but I think once you find out, if there's a, I got to return this email and, to my accountant, but if it can go till tomorrow because a sales call comes in,
yep, like
they're going to understand that.
100%.
Or, something like that, where as long as you're taking care of your clients and doing, getting, all of that stuff taken care of,
yeah,
everything else will kind of fall into place.
For sure. That's one of the things I started going to therapy like a year and a half ago, and really like the lady I work with. She's been on the podcast before. And one of the things that was really helpful for me that she said is she asked me a question one time, and she was like, who are you without all of the tabs that you have running all the time in your brain? And it was after I had been talking to her about the fact that like a lot of times I find myself where my brain is constantly working on business stuff, whether it's growth or efficiency or whatever, and then also relationships and all these other things. She's like, okay, if you just turned off like the busyness of your brain, and you're just like, all right, let's close all these tabs. Like, what at a foundation do you care about? What are the things that like actually matter in your day and things like that? And it caused me to do a lot of thinking. And what I started doing is I started splitting my to-do list each day for like the checklist kind of thing. And I split it into one section that says what matters, and then one section that says business. And some of the times the things that are inside of the what matters are business tasks, but it was helpful for me to split it because when I have all these business tabs that are running in my brain all the time of things that I need to do, it's easy for me to be like, well, I'm really busy. I better skip the gym to get those 2 hours back. Or I'm really busy. I might as well like say no to doing these things with my friend or with my partner. And I think that that's really tricky because after a long time of that, you never really close any of these tabs. You just keep on building and building and building them. And like the more that you get done, the more that gets added to your plate. And so I found that if I never like purposely had that mode where you just like click an X on all of these things, I would just never have time to do the things that actually mattered to me. And so I'm curious for you, like, have you experienced that where you've kind of had to draw boundaries with your business busyness so that like you can make room for the life stuff?
I have, because again, I just put my head down, worked, and my health really suffered
During that like during that grind period. Okay.
Yeah. I gained a ton of weight. Wasn't healthy. And so I really had to make that a non-negotiable in my day. My diet had to change. My exercise I had to do something every day.
What was the thing that made you make that switch?
Well, I hit like 315 pounds and I did 75 hard and I wasn't losing any weight. And because we've talked about it before, I do 75 hard every year. I think it's a fantastic program. Just for your mental state of being, it's fantastic. And I started working with a natural health doctor, and he found out I had a thyroid problem, that my gut health was attacking my thyroid. And I've always worked out, not religiously,
right?
But then once the weight started falling off, and then the progress,
reinforcement. Let's go, dude.
That really helped. So, I just knew that. And then I found, when I switched from being the fun party guy to get rid of my stress, and realizing the workouts help that, that really hit a switch, because for me, if I start my day out with a workout, everything else is easier.
Yep.
Even if I just wake up and go for a walk, but I'll go do it when it's 20 below.
Yeah.
But as long as you get that, check that box off, you're eating good every day. You're doing, your family responsibilities.
Yeah.
Everything else will, the work's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And like you said, the more I'd get that checklist done, the more stuff I would drum up.
Yeah.
Work just produces more work.
Yeah. Cause it's like, ooh, well, if I got all that done yesterday, like tomorrow, I'll probably add one more thing.
I'm freaked out when all my emails are gone. I'm like, what is going on here?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's an interesting thing to me, because the constant like state of busyness and the constant state of to-dos is something that like, it's kind of like what you were saying earlier about your problems never go away. They just get bigger. I, for a long time, spent my time feeling like I was going to war against my to-do list. And I caught myself all the time being like, well, if I just have like 3 hours of uninterrupted work today, like my to-do list will be done. But then I'd say that for like 6 months straight. And on those 6 months when I'm going to war, that's when I like started messing up with my health and with all that kind of stuff. So when you had that moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to do 75 hard, I'm going to start working out, start working with this like natural health doctor. What was the switch? Cause I mean, those are all very big things to kind of like to do all at once. And if you're being successful in like this, in the professional side of your life, I would imagine that there's probably something where it's like, okay, now I'm going to start addressing these other things.
Yeah.
Like, what was that turning point for you?
I knew I was getting older. I knew like the weight was going to be harder to get off. Then it's going to start affecting my heart, affecting my, all of that kind of stuff. So that kind of worries me, in my head. I have this great relationship with my kids, but if I'm dead at 50, then it's not going to mean anything.
Right.
And then it also weighs on you. Then all these people's responsibility that are your responsibility, all your staff, all your vendors, you got to be healthy for them. You got to take care of yourself for them. So for me, it was more out of responsibility for the people around me than it was just for me. It was, just making the time to do that. 75 hard mate was huge for me, because it made me realize, that people will say we don't have time to do it. They're, we all have the same time in the day. So if I can get 2 workouts in, get my pilot's license, run a couple of successful companies, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So for me, it just reinforced the fact that we just have to move at a faster pace. And people don't want to hear that, but we all waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
Doing watching Netflix or, doing stupid things.
Yeah. It's really funny to me when I get really busy and I like see how much that I can get done when I'm like back against the wall and things have to happen. And a lot of times when I come out of one of those really busy seasons, I'll catch myself claiming to be busy or something like that when it's like kind of a slower season. And I'll look at it and be like, I wouldn't have had time to do any of the shit that I did today 3 months ago when I was in the weeds with everything, but still I find a way not to get certain things done. And it's, God, I forget which, I think it's Parkinson's law, but essentially it's this idea that the amount of time that we give ourselves to complete a task is how long the task will take.
100%.
And so like every day you have, I don't know, 16, 17, 18 hours you're awake. And so you have to find ways to fill that time anyways. And if you're not busy doing things that actually matter to you, that's where Netflix, that's where doom scrolling, that's where all of this other bullshit creeps in, because you're not being intentional about what you're doing with your time.
So what I do is on my to-do list, there's probably 15, 20 things like everybody. So I pick the 5 or 6 things that are the hardest and that need to get done first. And I number them.
Okay.
And then I tackle the hardest one first. The one that's going to cause me the most pain, the one that I'm going to procrastinate the most.
Okay.
And it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. It's always easier than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that was kind of like the workout. Once you get that checked off, then when number 1 on your checklist is done, you're like, that was the worst part of my day.
Right.
And then the other things seem easy. And then you get the endorphins of checking things off.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden it's noon and all your tasks are done.
Yep. 100%.
So, the other thing I do at night is not at night. I turn my email notification off. I don't get any emails or any social media notifications or anything like that.
At what time?
I don't have them on at all.
Oh, great. Okay.
No. And because that's the stuff that will eat up your day, eat up your mind space.
Yeah.
Because when you're trying to be productive and you're trying to get the things that move the needle done, an email from, even a spam email will take up a little bit of your mental space. So I have specific times that I look at emails and like social media notifications, especially social media. Cause then you're doom scrolling.
They catch you so easy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're watching, comedian clips or something.
Yeah. And you catch yourself like, it's been a half hour again. What the hell
you're
is
watching
happening?
Shane Gillis.
Oh my gosh. I know. One of my favorite ideas is that when you're choosing which advice to listen to from people who have been successful already, right? There's this idea that the advice that somebody gives when they are 25 years into their career and they have been successful, they've created systems, they've learned all the lessons, that the advice that they give at that point, a lot of times is not the advice that can actually get you to there, because it might not be the same advice that they listen to during your 6 to 8 year grind period where you're only doing stuff with your family, you're only doing stuff with your work. And so that shift that you made where you started taking more time to do things like get your pilot's license and do creative ventures and like kind of do more of the life stuff. How do you think it would have changed your trajectory if you operated like you operate now, but started that at the beginning of that 6-year grind phase?
I think I operate the same. I just, now the funds are there to do the kind of the things that I want to do.
Interesting.
I still wake up every day, Saturdays, Sundays, tackle that to-do list because as an entrepreneur, you have no days off.
Right.
And, my mind still races all the time. It's just now, finding those outlets is a little easier because, you've got the funds to do that. When I was 28, I couldn't have afforded flying lessons, but, I think it is important to do that, whether it's, go hiking or go do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And not grind the whole time. So, I mean, I had fun. I don't want to say that's all I was doing, but it was, you weren't taking a bunch of vacations and things like that. My son wrestled all over the nation. So we traveled to Tennessee and Texas and I'd coach, and that was kind of our vacations for a long time. Okay. So, it's just funny because I think your priorities shift as you get older and you realize that, getting some of these other accomplishments is a little more important than building a big business, unless that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's one of those things where I think that you almost have to touch the stove in that way. Yeah. Right. You have to go through the grind period. You have to do all that stuff to come out on the other side and be like, maybe I should spend a little bit more time doing hobbies or doing, whatever that other thing is. Yeah. It's something that's interesting for me the more that I talk to people about it, because a lot of times I'm sitting on the side of the table where I'm like, I'm the younger one that still has so far to go in comparison to who I'm talking to. And I hear similar advice really often where it's like, make sure that you're making time for the things that matter and make sure that you're not just grinding 24/7, but that like you actually kind of have some balance. But then they'll also turn around and be like, yeah, but dude, but for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I was in the shit. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if everybody says that they did that thing, I'm starting to think that it's kind of a prerequisite.
It's
like,
kind of the initiation to
Right.
having a successful business, which is we're really lucky to be able to do that because like my dad's a truck driver, worked 80 hours a week his whole life,
right.
and didn't have a business to show for it, you know. So we also forget that the generations before us did that very thanklessly.
Right.
The farmers, the people that work in the refineries, and they're working 12 hours at night and they can't go to their kids' stuff. Whereas entrepreneurs, we can make that time.
Right.
And then I think it's important that we do make that time. Like you can go watch your kid's soccer game. Your work's going to be there when you get done. Where the guy that's working shift work, he's at the mine. He can't just leave at 4:00 and go watch his kid's soccer game.
For sure.
So I think we're really lucky to have that opportunity to do that. And we absolutely need to do that and take that advantage.
100%. So, I mean, being at the spot where you're at now, you say that you go 6 to 8 years, go through the grind phase and then kind of pick your head up being like, okay, well, I've got a business that's working. Now it's time to get my health in order. It's time to do some of these things. Where do you get from that point until like maxing out where you're at kind of in billings before you start expanding and doing that kind of stuff? What is that little chapter look like?
So I'm always in growth mindset.
For sure.
I need to sometimes scale that back and like build the war chest and then expand before I take off. But opportunities present, obviously the doors that open with opportunities, those kind of opened, and because that happens with success,
right.
The better you do. And I want to do more volume, and billings can only sustain so many houses for sale.
Right.
And so to do that, I have to go to other markets. And so the Helena opportunity presented itself. And what's funny is like 2 or 3 years before that opportunity was kind of there. And I was looking at it, but I was not in the spot to make it happen. I was still going to do it.
Yeah.
But it worked out so much better that it popped up again 2 or 3 years later.
Interesting.
So I do believe that if you just keep heading the right direction, good things will happen. And they sometimes good things don't happen.
Right.
Because you weren't ready for them.
Uh-huh.
You weren't in the season for that yet. So we wanted to do more volume and we wanted to pick up more houses.
Okay. You said towards the beginning of the podcast, and I forget exactly how you said it, but you said something like we can be the victim of our own ideas or the victim of our own opportunities.
Yeah.
When you see an opportunity like expanding or something like that, how do you determine whether or not this is one of those shiny objects that isn't worth chasing versus, okay, 2 years later, now this is time to actually take this opportunity?
So I go into a market like say Helena or Great Falls. We do research on what's for sale, how many new construction houses are for sale, how many are selling every year, price points, labor, if there's available labor, and things like, the metrics that push that needle. And for what's nice with these littler markets is like in Billings, I say everyone that owns a tool belt's a builder. So you've got a ton of competition, where in these smaller rural, they're not rural, they're, for Montana, they're bigger, but there's not as much competition. And, they've done it the same way for 50 years. They're victims of, this is how we've always done it.
Right.
And then, so a builder like us, who's, people can pick out colors and change some floor plans and be more customer service oriented.
Right.
We've got the opportunity to come in and make a dent.
Gotcha. So it's a combination of like doing good research at the beginning.
Yep.
And then, so really it sounds like it's just numbers-based decisions then.
100%. Yep. I am a numbers guy. I try to, I say that I shoot from the hip, but I do the research first.
Gotcha.
But I do the research fast and then I make the decision fast.
Okay. What are some of the things after having tested that expansion in Helena and then exploded into 3 additional cities now at this point? What are some of the things that you've learned going to somewhere outside of just like your core headquarters?
I say business is business. Whether you're running a media company or a home builder, the fundamentals are all the same. if we go there, we meet all the new subcontractors, we meet all the new vendors. They all have the same goal: feed their families, make a little money, take care of their employees. So if you're treating people the same, you have systems, your SOPs are good, you should be able to be successful in any business. So it's always funny when people say, well, it's different in my business. No, it's not. Right. Business is business. If we're selling supplements or we're selling t-shirts out of the back of a car, the fundamentals are all the same. So for me, we just have to remember our core values as a company and operate with inside of those. And you're always, if you just keep working hard and doing the right things, everything's going to work out good.
100%.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is daunting about expansion sometimes, whether it's more product lines, more locations, more whatever, is as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're fairly stretched thin already, just kind of by nature.
Yeah.
That being said, a lot of times you've got to put somebody in place who can be a representative for you, because if not, it's like, okay, now we've got five times as much work that I didn't really have the capacity for anyways. Yep. So when you're as customer focused as you are inside of your company, how do you put people in place inside of these markets that actually embody that for you? And how do you go about finding those people?
We've been really lucky finding like the best project managers. Especially in Billings, Helena, our project manager in Hella is like family now. He gets mad if I don't stay at his house. And, the establishing your core values as a company early is a huge thing. And I learned this in the RTA Syndicate, the coaching group I'm in. Having your core values, your customer is always right. The things that embody you, and then you hire and you fire based on your core values. And that's super important. If my office manager's kind of talking rude to a customer or makes a mistake or does something wrong, I'm like, okay, what core value are we missing here?
Right.
Or, okay, you made a decision. It was the right decision, but you tell me what core value you are operating in. If you operate on those core values, your company can never go wrong.
Interesting. How'd you go about defining yours? Cause it's so easy to throw a couple words together, hang them on a corny poster and be like, these are our values.
Yeah.
Every company ever does that. But I think that I've met a couple of companies that actually have legit core values and stick to them.
Yeah.
And their company culture and the people that I interact with them, I'm like, half of you guys could teach a course on running a good business.
Yeah, 100%.
So how do you go from the corny poster on the wall to the actual buy-in on that?
Yeah. I'm lucky that Andy Purcell is a mentor of mine. I've been to his house. I've seen his garage. I've been to First Form, in person several times. Mm-hmm. And that company embodies core values. Everything that they do is based on their core values. And for me, just picking that up and then, kind of plagiarizing some of those, you kind of look at other companies and find out what's important to you, because a good company should all be kind of the same.
Well, like you said, business is business.
Yeah.
So most of the things that make the good ones run are probably the things that'll be helpful in the other
If
ones.
your core values screw people over and make a bunch of money, it's probably not the best,
Correct.
But if it's, do the right thing, always take responsibility, take care of the customer, that's kind of ours. It's all pretty common sense stuff, the golden rule kind of stuff. And it's not brain surgery.
Right.
People want to make it hard. It's really not that hard, do the right thing. Like if you see a piece of trash on a job site, you stop by and pick it up.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're the owner or you're the realtor or what you are. None of us are too good to pick up trash.
Right.
And, we want our product to be the best looking, take care of everything. And if that's in your core values, it's always an easy decision.
Yeah. How do you, back to the original question though, how do you get that buy-in from the people who end up on your team? Is it a matter of saying it a lot? Is it like doing it yourself?
You can only lead this is a quote from Ben Newman, who's also a coach of mine. You can only lead by the discipline that you live. So if me and my employees are at a job site and they see me walk by a big pile of trash, then they're going to walk by a big pile of trash. But if they see me in the dirt, my Birkenstocks picking up trash, they're, or even in our office, if there's, toilet paper on the floor in the bathroom, if they see me cleaning that up, the leader has to define the company. You are the soul and everything of that company. And you can't expect people to do things that you're not going to do.
100%. Yeah. Is that something that you've seen shift as far as like how your team responds to you the more that you've worked in things like getting a pilot's license, getting your health in order? Like, have you noticed the trickle down
Oh
from
yeah,
the way that you live your life?
for sure. My sister, does 75 hard every year. We emphasize like, hey, if you want to go to the gym at 3:00, as long as your stuff done, you go to the gym. We stock full of healthy snacks and, energy
Yeah.
drinks and, that kind of stuff. I think it's really important that they see how you live. And you do see a shift. My subcontractors notice, my foundation guy is like, hey, did you already crush the workout this morning? I'm like, yes, I did. Did you? Like they see that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the example you want to live.
Right. I think it also is a good filter for the kind of people who end up around you, because I think that when you're actually dedicated to the lifestyle that you want to live, to some degree, there's certain people that'll will be around that, and there's certain people that won't.
It's like the law of attraction.
100%. Yeah. And I think that the thing that's behind that too is like, you go from being like the fun party guy and doing all that kind of stuff to like, no, I'm working out twice a day.
Yeah.
I'm doing these things with my family and blah, blah, blah. Eventually that just lends itself to like, you're probably not in the bar a whole lot. So you're not going to be around the people who are.
Right.
And then you're probably saying yes to things like traveling to coach your kids' wrestling tournaments and blah, blah, blah. So you're not going to go on like the boys' trip to Cabo for some of the time. So like, I think that just by nature of choosing to do the right things, a lot of times you end up just naturally around other people who are doing the same thing.
Absolutely. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday on my podcast. Like, you're not meeting real successful people at the bar or at like the business after hours and things like that. You're meeting them at the gym. You're meeting them, doing the actual work than you are sitting at a bar somewhere, which I still enjoy, but a little bit, not as much as I used to, but, there's a time and a place for everything.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I really got interested in when I was listening to some of your podcasts and stuff like that, prepping for this, is you said on one of your podcasts that systems will always beat your hustle.
Yep.
And I thought that was a really interesting quote coming from you, because I've heard so many times you talk about the value of hustle and so many of those different things. So what does that quote, systems will beat your hustle, mean to you?
Everybody's working hard. Is in my head. Everybody's doing doing the work. You, as a competitor, you think that your competitors are working as hard as you. So if you've got systems in place, it's not the stupid work smarter, not harder. Because everybody's working hard. So you've got to have the SOPs in place. So then your team, when you're building a team, they know that they have the recipe that you've built for success. So when I meet Drew to buy a house, I sign a letter of intent. They know when I slide that over to them, they know the next 8 steps that have to happen to get that house rolling. They don't have to ask me. They don't have to, there's no lost time.
Right.
So it goes back to the speed, because if your systems are in place and you're working hard, then now you're starting to lap your competitors. It's kind of my mindset on that.
Got you. Does it take a certain level of hustle at the beginning to figure out how to build those systems and that sort of stuff?
It takes trial and error. You have to learn, you have to throw it against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
And, you might try to skip process 2 and 3 to get to 4 quicker. And then you realize you can't.
Right.
and,
been there.
And when you're building a business and you've got, my project manager in Helena, and I'm, 3.5 hours away, if he's got my playbook, then he's able to run the same play and get the same result.
Got it.
And then when he's got questions, his questions are less. And then when he does, you can answer them quick and be like, go back to process 4. And this is where this sits.
So it's more about a combination of systems and hustle than it is systems over hustle.
Yep. Well, I think it'll beat it every time. I think if you have SOPs in place, because if there's a builder that's a one-man show and he's trying to compete with me doing 60 houses, you can't do it by yourself. So you've got to build the team, and then they've got to have the structure to follow the play and run it for success.
Right. Yeah. There's a question that I ask myself all the time, and it's systems related, because that's kind of what my brain tends to work in, is a bit of a chicken or the egg question is, does the hustle thing go first, where it's like, we're just going to work as hard as we need to get this thing done. And then we're going to look backwards and say, what were the steps that we took and how do we optimize them? Or is it, creating a system on the front end, being like, we don't know if this is the right one yet, but we're just going to try it.
Yeah.
Do you tend to go hustle first and then we'll figure out the system after we've done it a few times? Or do you go system first and then try to figure out if it's the right one or if it needs tweaks?
Yeah. I go hustle first and then reverse engineer it.
Got it.
Okay. So we got this done. What worked? Like, let's find out the steps that worked, what didn't, and then let's try it this way the next time. Because I think if you try to overanalyze it, then you'll add too many steps because we want to check those boxes off.
Yeah.
So I like to find out what works.
Okay.
And then start deleting things out of that and make it as simple as possible.
That seems like it kind of lends itself to like that speed over analysis kind of thing that you were talking about earlier too.
And I always say, because in my business, it takes so long, like the bank takes 30 to 45 days. The draftsman takes, 2 weeks, to where next thing you know, you've got 2 houses done in a year because you're waiting on other people. So if we're stacking processes and getting things done at the same time, like the draftsman and the bank can be working at the same time.
Right.
And those are when you know the system, you know where you can overlie things.
100%. One of the things that I've noticed a lot talking to you and then listening to your podcast is that it seems like a lot of the systems and things that you've learned, you've been able to either learn from other people or shortcut by going to the people who are the experts already.
100%.
And so like even listening to you right now talk about all of the steps in a building process, I'm looking at that going like, holy shit, this would take me forever to figure out. However, I know you've got a coaching program that you help people with, and that you've also like solicited coaching for yourself.
Yep.
So what have been some of the like levels that you've been able to reach, or some of the changes that you've been able to make as a result of seeking out expert helps through like coaching and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because like when I started in business 25 years ago, there was no YouTube. There was Tony Robbins books and a few, books to read.
Yeah.
But now you can go to YouTube and watch Alex Hormozi videos, and he will literally tell you how to sell and build a business.
Yeah.
But I've really invested a ton into my own personal coaching. Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, Dan Martell, Ben Newman, all coaches of mine. And I think you have to look at those companies that you want to emulate and learn how they did it. Because before I joined Andy Frisella and Ed Milet's coaching program, I didn't know what core values were. I'd never heard of them before. And if you're wanting to reach new levels, you've got to do new things, and you got to follow the people. I'm a high school dropout, no education. Like, I'm just figuring this out as I go. So why not listen to the guy with $1 billion supplement company that has done this? So that's why I did start the coaching program, because there's lots of people that want to be in real estate, whether they're not in construction or a realtor business at all, to those trim guys and framers that want to learn that new process. Right. So that's why I started that. I've got five students right now, and I'm having a blast teaching it. It's a passion project for me. It's so much fun to, we just coached yesterday on, managing subs, just the personality of the subcontractors and stuff. And one of my students, had a blow up with the plumber the other day, and I'm like, well, okay, this is how you could have massaged that a little better. So if anybody's listening, I give away a free checklist for the downfalls. So DM me if you want that. It's a fun thing to do. Yeah. I'm having a blast with it.
I think it's really cool. And, one of the things for me is, especially in the creative space, there's everybody and their dog has got a course about how to create Instagram content, or how to work from Bali and do, it's all, there's so much convoluted bullshit when it comes to the coaching industry that I think one of the hardest things is not determining whether or not coaching is a good thing, but determining whether or not this specific coach is a good one.
Absolutely. If they tell you it's good, it's going to be super easy and you're not going to have to work real hard, they're lying to you.
Fair enough.
no matter what business that you're in, it's going to be hard. You're going to have some struggles. Why
did you in the first place decide to, who's the first coach you brought on, and why did you determine that was part of the thing that you were going to do?
The first coaches I brought on were Andy Frisella and Ed Milet. Okay. I listened to the MFCEO project when it first came. I was looking for a podcast to listen to, a business podcast, and I saw MFCEO. I'm like, I know what that means. Yeah. And then I listened to it, and he talked like I do, says dude a lot, the F word a lot. So like, it just, like that guy talks just like I talk. Like the nuts and bolts of the business that he was talking has really, I mean, it resonated because my business was just starting to grow. We were just starting to get some momentum. And he, you know, he didn't fluff it, but he was just like, this is going to be the hardest thing you ever did. You know, it's not going to be easy. If anybody tells you it's going to be easy, they're lying.
Yeah.
And then Ed Milet is just the smoothest dude in the world. So I've done some public speaking. I've talked on some stages. And so I'll literally go back and listen to his podcast and kind of, I don't want to say emulate, but like get the flow of how he talks and like the inflections in his voice and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So those two guys are rock stars. So
did you reach a certain point in your business where you were plateauing or like hitting a glass ceiling or something like that, where you felt like you needed a coach, or was it something that you brought on like before you found yourself in some kind of situation?
Yeah, I wasn't plateauing. I was just starting to grow.
Okay.
But I felt like I needed like a tribe. I needed a gang to be involved in.
Yeah.
And because as entrepreneurs, especially at the age I was, there's not a lot of us out there that are true entrepreneurs. Right. You know, I even hate the word entrepreneur. Like,
it's gotten so gross.
I know.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
On everything I sign, it just says owner. It's not like CEO or, you know, something cheesy like that. Cause I think people, you know, want to feel good
for sure.
You know, so I feel like I just needed to be part. It's always fun to do with other people. It's kind of like running.
Yeah.
You know, like if you and I go for a run, it's more fun to suffer together.
Yeah.
CrossFit's a great example. Like they built the biggest, you know, community on that premise, and it worked. People love it.
100%. Yeah. It's interesting to me because I think that being in a market like Billings, one of the things that's really cool is that there are people who are accessible, who have done really outstanding things. You're one of the best developers in our town, and it's like you're a text away, or like I can hit up two people and there's an intro that's made.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of people who are super gracious with their time here. And so that's a huge benefit.
And that's a Montana thing,
which is awesome. Yeah. And one of the things that is tricky about that though, is while the people who have done impressive things are accessible, a lot of times there's not very many people who have done what you're trying to do who are accessible. There's nobody here who's built a top 10 podcast in the world.
No,
there's nobody here who's built a media company that's the size of like what Alex Garcia has done in Austin.
Right.
So for me, I feel like it's really cool to be able to take inspiration from different places. But like what you said about the tribe, there's so many hurdles that they just can't help me with because they didn't build in the lane in the lane that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I've really been considering is like, which of the roadblocks could I have gotten through faster, and which of the things are still like yet to come that if I just paid somebody a little bit of money, I could like save myself a couple of years of falling on my face.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the premise of my coaching program is like, I've got a guy in Virginia, I've got a guy in Cleveland, and like, I've got one of the guys that are here in Billings. He's a foundation guy. So when my buddy in Virginia's got a foundation problem, we're putting together this community to where, hey, I can hit up Brandon and be like, hey, what do I do with this foundation?
Right.
And so if you get a bunch of like-minded people together that are trying to help, then we're all going to grow together. And that's really my goal for that.
That's so cool. The other coaches that you brought on, Dan Martell is one of my favorite dudes to listen to.
He's so good.
What have you gotten from him in that program?
The AI is taking over the world.
This is true. This is true.
Systems, SOPs. He's very gracious with his product and like send you the templates and those kind of stuff. And just that having to have the assistant, the buy back your time principle.
Yeah.
That book is fantastic. Buy back your time. And, just the ways to grow the way I want to grow. You can't do it the way it's always been done and expect a different result.
Right. 100%. So where you're at now, one of the things that I heard you say also is a 40-hour work week is the bare minimum if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
If you want to be exceptional, it's got to be more than that. Being in a place now where you've had this core market in Billings that you've been successful in, you're branching out in Montana. I would imagine that your weeks are not going to dip below 40 anytime soon.
No.
What does success look like for you? And what is your vision as you kind of go into this next chapter of like bigger expansion?
Um, I like how Andy puts it. Andy Frisella puts it with success. It's the, reaching my full potential. So I don't know if we'll ever get there.
Yeah.
I love I love the Rocky montage scene. I'd rather see Rocky running through the snow in Russia than I would him winning.
Yeah.
So the pursuit of it is more fun for me than actually hitting the goal.
Yeah.
The trials, the tribulations that you hit going through it, to me are more fun than doing it. So I'm trying to reach the full potential of what we as a company can do.
Right.
And then for me, and it might even be selfishly, I want to see all of my employees, all of the people that I'm coaching, reach whatever potential they want to get to, because my goals don't have to be their goals.
Right.
But, I want to see them hit their goals and watch other people grow. Cause it's not fun suffering by yourself.
For sure.
So I want to see Drew do the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to stay in contact. We're going to, you have these conversations, and next time we're on a podcast together, we're both going to be in bigger, better places.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so exciting, man. And I think that when you can fall in love with the game and just like playing the game instead of whatever the landmarks or the wins or whatever is, like if you always love playing the game, it seems like that by itself is a competitive advantage because there's no lulls in that. Like if you're always playing it, then you're always,
my older son, he took a job at a lumberyard learning sales. Cause I told him, like, if you're not going to learn like a accounting skill or something, being a salesman is the best gig on the planet.
Agreed.
You'll always make money wherever you want to move. So, and I told him, like, one of your biggest regrets, is whether it's football or baseball or wrestling, like not winning that championship that year. Like, us as athletes feel like we always have that in the back of our mind. Like, we didn't win. But the best thing about business is it's a competitive sport that there is no state championship. There's no end date.
Yeah.
So whether you're in the season of the grind season or you're on second, you could still hit that home run and pass the person on second.
Uh-huh.
And so that's, to me, it's a sport that never ends.
Yeah.
So we get to get up and play a game every day.
1,000%.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. I think that it seems too like the more pursuits that you can stack that are like that, the better too. Like obviously you've got running as part of that. And now your pilot's license and things like that. How do you make sure that you don't lose that spark as things continue to get bigger, the stress grows? Cause I think that it's different when you've got a 1-year-old and it's your first year in real estate. Yeah. You're like, I got to make this shit work, versus when you just you just built a pretty sweet house. You've got your plane, you've got all the things. And it's like, well, technically I don't have to go through all of this shit.
Right. How
do you keep the love of the game when things get stressful and on paper, you don't really have to be dealing with that kind of stress anymore?
It's important to stay grounded. To remember, I grew up poor, trailer park kid. It's important to have that in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And then as an entrepreneur, it's not that hard to remember the downtimes. It's not, I still remember.
Sometimes they're right around the corner too. Yeah.
You're right. They're coming. Yeah. So you got to be like, I was just having this conversation with my sister about sales. Like, our pre-sales today are going to be paying us in December. So, the downtime in real estate, but we're pre-selling houses now. We have to be, again, as the leader, I got to be looking around the corner and pushing my people.
Yeah. And
so I still remember 2008 like it was yesterday. You remember those times where cash flow is low and you don't know how you're going to make payroll. Mm-hmm. So as an entrepreneur, I don't think it's hard because there's too many, you got too many scars.
Yeah, for sure.
that are there. They're deep.
Yeah.
So, and again, staying grounded. Like, I'll go drive by the trailer park I grew up in. It just, okay, well, you're doing good now, but it could all go away. So
for sure.
Keep pushing.
Interesting.
Plus it's fun just to wake up and play the game.
I agree.
Yeah. We, for me, sales is everything. It's the funnest thing. And we call it chasing the dragon. I've never done heroin, but it's got to be the closest thing to do with heroin.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It does. That's to me, like the part that feels like a game that's fun.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like about it the most is like when you're selling something that you believe in, it really feels like you've got this opportunity where like You put systems in place where you're going to be able to get in front of people that you can actually help in the real world. And that's such an exciting thing to be like, if this conversation goes well, I get to make your life better. And I think if you approach sales like that,
absolutely,
it's such a blessing because it's like, I get to be excited about every single one of these conversations.
If you're coming from a good spot and you're trying to help, the other thing that I like to do is I manufacture enemies in my head.
Manufacture enemies.
I do. Yeah. I think like, this up and coming builder thinks he's going to be, do better than me. So like I'll manufacture those competitions in my head, even though this, Tom might be the best guy on the planet, doesn't care. He's still trying to beat me.
Do you do that like when you're running and working out and stuff like that too?
Not running because everybody's better than me.
Yeah, fair.
So, but like when I was like lifting heavy and stuff, yeah. I mean, when you're trying to squat 600 pounds, you gotta go to some dark places
for sure. Yeah,
it's not all healthy.
That's one of the things that I've found to be the most beneficial when it comes, like you said, to like the stress management and the part of like staying grounded. Is if I can do activities that like, I call them forced presence, where whatever I'm doing requires so much like physical exertion or just present attention that I can't focus on anything else.
When you're rolling jiu-jitsu and someone's trying to choke you.
Yeah. Or like when I'm boxing and it's like, oh, you can get knocked out right now. Or like all of those kinds of things. To me, that's such a benefit because number one, it's one moment where all of the noise of the outside world is quiet and you get whatever that like little vacation from the rest of it is. And the other thing too, is if you're actually doing really hard shit and you're off time, when you've got somebody who it's like, they send you a nasty text or something seems to go a little bit sideways. It's like, yeah, dude, but whatever. Like this is all like, this is the game that we're playing and that's okay. But my real life is I take care of my people. I do really hard shit. And like, if things go a little sideways today in the business world, whatever, dude.
Right. My nose is still attached. Like and I do like that about the hard exercise. Like I loved CrossFit for that reason, because when you're lying in a pool of sweat, nothing else matters.
For sure. Yeah.
And flying is kind of that escape because I don't think about work. I don't think about anything. All I'm thinking about is getting the plane back on the ground. Right. And one mistake could be fatal. Yeah. So those are, to me, my brain has to work in those extremes. Otherwise, there's no gray.
100%. The thing that I'm, I guess, the most curious about at this point is, I absolutely love your story, and I think that
appreciate that
the foundation that you've got in trying to help people and making sure that you're taking care of yourself and your family and stuff like that. It's really cool to watch because it's almost like one of those inevitable, like the train's just going to that destination. It's just going to be cool to watch it get there. So I can't wait to see where you go with that stuff. I'm super excited to hear what your vision is with the coaching thing, because to me, I really enjoy the fact that I've been able to reach out to people who have been more successful than me, and over coffee and dinner and whatever, those people have been willing to be like, here's my playbook, do with it what you want. You can run a different offense, but here it is. There's not a lot of people that have as successful a business as you do and choose to take time away from that to do that helping other people thing. Because you're not the cash grab, here's how to do a drop shipping course kind of person.
No,
this seems like this is something that's actually like means something to you. So talk to me about like why you started that thing and then what your vision for it is.
My thing is I didn't go the traditional route of getting into home building. So I want other people to know that you can be in real estate. You can build homes, develop land, do everything like that. If you follow the right steps, if you follow that playbook. And I want to take some of those pitfalls that I hit, and so they don't have to hit that. So it's profitable early.
Right.
And help them. And, like I try to text them every morning, and we do one week of business, 1 week of, a different, budget, financial type of stuff. And then we do a week of mindset, which I'm really big on mindset. And then we do a week of a Q&A,
right,
to where everybody can learn from each other. We're just spitballing ideas and do that. So my goal for it is to build it and get a bunch of people across the nation that are building this big community of people trying to help each other.
Right.
To where when, Tom in Florida is struggling, it's either me as a leader or some guy in Ohio reaching out to him, trying to help him. I think when you get a group of people that you're so powerful if we're all going the same direction, trying to be successful, no matter what stage you're in, if you're close to retirement, but you want to build a spec house, or you're an accountant and you want to get out of out of that, then there's a spot for everybody. And my goal is just to help and motivate and just show people that if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. It's fun.
That seems like such an exciting thing, man.
Yeah.
And it's cool too, because I know one of the guys who's in your program, and I think it's such an exciting thing to think about the fact that like somebody who I actually care about is able to like be able to get further faster because you're willing to be like, hey, I'm going to take a little break from my stuff real quick and like reach down and help you guys, because like you said, it's a lonely game.
Oh, and the amount of preparation I put into these calls, Drew, like I've got notes and highlights. Like I spend a ton of time getting ready for these guys and try to give them everything.
Right.
For that hour a week that we're together. And, you know, they're able to call me and text me with any questions and, you know, get through those hurdles that they're going to hit, because again, it's a puzzle, and it's not a flat puzzle. It's not I mean, there's nothing easy about it, but there's ways to make it a little more sustainable.
I love that. Well, one of the, kind of like last questions that I want to ask you is, for the times that you've been able to look at people and see like, okay, this is a young guy who's starting his development journey, or looking back at yourself, making the leap to start building or start in real estate. It seems to me that you think more about that phase than probably a lot of people do, as far as people getting started. And so if you've got somebody who's listening to this show and they're thinking about doing whatever thing that they're about to do, right? Doesn't matter what it is, but they're like, okay, I've done the hard work to figure out this is the thing that I'm supposed to do with my life. Now I have to do all of the hard shit afterwards to actually design my life around chasing it. What are some of the things that you would tell them if they're kind of on the fence of, do I just do the safe kind of normal thing that I'm doing now, or do I actually like pursue this vision that I've got?
That's a tough question, because everyone's got that stress tolerance. I put my nephew, like he stresses out about buying, you know, $100 stock.
Yeah.
Where you're building a $400,000 house. So you whatever stress you're at, there's ways to do it. I would say don't spend too much time analyzing, because your numbers aren't going to be right. Right. You want them to be, but they're not. I would say, find some, if it's not me, find someone who's done it to help you along the pitfalls, because there's a lot of the old guard that doesn't want to, give those secrets away, but there is people that want to help. And I was lucky that I had a few of those when I got started. Find someone that can help you, and have that person that you can bounce ideas off, because not every idea is a good idea, and some are fantastic.
Right.
So find a good mentor that'll take care of you, and then watch every dollar that goes out, because when you're building the house, where, if you're in a normal business, it's a $200 mistake. It's a $5,000 mistake. Yeah. And that'll eat away your margin real quick.
Gotcha. Well, that's freaking awesome, man. I'm super excited. This was really fun.
Always
like
a blast.
You said, I would love to do this again in a couple of years once there's more states on the roster and
absolutely,
you're flying around. Maybe we could do an episode on the headsets of
absolutely. That'd be fun. Yeah.
It'd be a great time.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've got tons of stuff going on. We'll put where to find you in the description for everything.
Fantastic.
Tell me about your podcast a little bit, and where people can get more of you if they want to hear.
Yeah, my podcast is built different. It's about, not just about building, but we interview business owners. A lot of it's like my sister and I giving market updates. If you're a realtor, if you're a builder, we talk about the processes, and then just business owners talking business. It's always about growth and doing things good, because I don't think any other way. Yep. So that's built different. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, all of those fun places. Built Different is my coaching program. Website's out there. So if anybody has any questions, I've got that free pitfall checklist that we're happy to give away for free.
Alrighty, beautiful. Well,
cool.
Dude, I know
thanks, brother.
I know you've got a lot of stuff on your time. So thanks.
Yeah, I got golf with my kiddos this afternoon.
Ooh, let's go. It's spring in Montana, baby. Got to get out there.
That's what's nice.
Heck yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And be where your feet are. We love you.